All right, we're diving into something seriously chilling today. We're talking about a piece of South Asian folklore, a curse that literally uses the dirt from a grave as a weapon through black magic. Let's get right into it.
This phrase, "Spirit be here with me," the fear returns, it pops up again and again in the story we're looking at. It's this haunting idea, right? That with the right words, the right actions, you can invite something ancient and terrifying right back into our world.
So what are we actually talking about? Well, the term in Bengali is koborer mati o kalo jadu. Let's break that down because it's pretty straightforward. Koborer mati means grave dust. Yep, soil from a grave. And kalo jadu, that's black magic. You put them together, and you've got the two key ingredients for a really potent folk curse.
So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to unpack this whole belief. We'll get into the folklore behind it. What do these things actually mean? How are they supposed to work? And why does this idea still have such a powerful grip on our imagination today? And what's so fascinating is how we're even hearing about this ancient belief. Our main source here isn't some dusty old book. Nope, it's a modern YouTube horror show called boot.com. And it's the perfect way to see how these old tales are not just surviving, but actually thriving in the digital age.
Okay, so let's start with that first ingredient, the grave dust itself. Why this? I mean, of all the things you could use, why is dirt from a grave so important to this kind of black magic, at least according to the lore?
Well, according to the folklore, grave dust isn't just dirt. It's seen as a physical connection, a direct line to the spirit world. It's thought to carry the actual essence of death and decay. The belief is that this soil is soaked with the energy of whoever's buried there, and that energy can be hijacked, to supernaturally bind or attack someone. That's exactly what makes it such a potent and frankly dangerous ingredient for these rituals.
So, okay, you've got your powerful ingredient, but how do you actually make it into a curse? Well, that's where the kalo jadu, the black magic, comes in. Let's take a look at the mechanics of how this whole thing is supposed to work.
It's believed to be a three-step ritual. First up is the collection. And this is a big deal. It's not just any grave. The folklore says the grave has to match what you want to do. So if you're after vengeance, you might need dust from the grave of a murder victim. For despair, maybe the grave of someone who died by suicide. Second, the incantation, where you use spoken spells to kind of turn on the power that's dormant in the dust. And finally, you have the delivery. The cursed soil has to get into the target's life somehow, sprinkled where they walk, hidden in their house, maybe even sewn into their clothes.
Now, let's tie this all back to our source, boot.com, because this is where it gets really interesting for us today. How in the world does a story that used to be whispered in a small village suddenly make its way to millions of people all over the globe on YouTube? I mean, just think about that transformation for a second. Historically, these tales were oral traditions. They were passed down slowly, from one generation to the next, usually in small, tight-knit communities. Digital media just completely changes the game. Now, one story is instantly available everywhere, to millions of people, and it can spread and change at lightning speed. You can really think of a show like boot.com as the new digital campfire. It's the same basic human need to tell scary stories, right? But instead of huddling around a fire, we're all just gathered around our screens. The medium is totally different, but the appeal, it's exactly the same. The scale of this change is just staggering. The reach of folklore started super local, just by word of mouth. Then, print media let it spread to a national level. But with digital broadcasting, the amplification is just exponential. Now we're talking about a truly global reach for these stories.
And this all brings us to the biggest question of all, really. In our modern scientific world, why do these stories not just survive, but actually seem to be thriving? Why do they still have the power to haunt us?
I mean, think about the year on the screen, 2026. We live in an age of artificial intelligence, gene editing, missions to Mars, and yet a story about cursed dirt from a grave can still send a shiver right down your spine. Why is that? Well, there are a few really powerful reasons. For one, these stories give us explanations for things we can't explain, like sudden illness or a string of bad luck. They also tap directly into our most primal fears, death, the unknown. And on a community level, sharing these stories creates this shared cultural identity, a shared thrill. But really, at the end of the day, they survive because they're just an incredibly powerful and timeless way to tell a story.
And so we end up right back where we started. It doesn't matter how advanced we get, how much we think we know,
These tales remind us that some fears are just built into us. They might fade away for a little while, but like the story says, the fear always returns.
So I'll leave you with this to chew on. In a world that relies so much on science and data, why do you think we are still so drawn to the darkness of these ancient fears? What need do you think they fulfill for us? Thanks for tuning in.